Hey guys, so when the marathon beats you, it beat me. So if you don't already know or follow me, please check out some of my other videos or down below somewhere. But anyway, a little preface, I just ran my third marathon. I ran the Columbus Marathon. I started running, I guess about 3 years ago. I ran my first full marathon a year and a half ago, second marathon a year ago, and now my third marathon like a couple weeks ago. So the first marathon I ran, I really just wanted to break 4 hours, but ironically enough, that apparently was my best shot at qualifying for the Boston Marathon. I ran it in 3 hours and 36 minutes, but I set myself back in corral D when I really should have been in A, and so I ended up just kind of walking the first like mile, 2 miles, so I definitely could have qualified, which is whatever. I didn't know. It's a learning experience, but that made me really motivated to qualify the next time. So the second marathon, I was trained and prepared and injured myself 3 weeks before the race. So that one I ended up kind of limp walking across the last 10 miles, so finished in 3:53. And then this past race, I was very intentional about my training. I trained very hard, but also intelligently. So like I was very careful to make sure that I was not getting injured or sick or anything like that. Everything that was in my control, I was watching out for and just trying to train smart. So I ended up finishing in 3:43. I was on pace the first half. I was going about 7:20 or so pace. Thinking I could finish in about 3:22 maybe, which would have been well ahead of Boston's qualifying time and just kind of would have been a sick time to get, and I would have been just so thrilled, so excited, and I was so pumped up to reach it, but I didn't. The marathon beat me. Why? Why did the marathon beat you? There are basically circumstances that were outside of my control, that there's not much you can plan for. You can prepare for conditions like weather conditions, rain, extreme cold, extreme heat, extreme humidity, altitude. You can try to plan for those, but there's only so much you can do depending on where you are, and your financial means, and if you're an amateur, and like, it's just, there's only so much you can do. So I had been training at as much heat and humidity as I could over the summer in Ohio. And then I moved to Colorado, which has pretty much no humidity. It's high altitude, so that was an adjustment, but pretty much no humidity. So I had a change in condition, so my training got a little interrupted. I was planning for it, so I basically planned to be as prepared as I could be before I moved to Colorado at the end of August, so that I just needed to maintain. That worked out actually pretty well. I think I did well with that, but there's no humidity, so for the 6 weeks leading up to the marathon, I was just training at high altitude, which probably helped in some ways, but race day ended up being 80 degrees and 86% humidity at the start of the race. Why, Ohio? Why? Why were you 80 degrees and 86% humidity in the middle of October? For anyone who doesn't know, that's not normal for the Midwest. It was also extremely windy. It was just a tough condition day in terms of weather. And there's nothing you can do about it. And then on top of that, I have bradycardia, which means that my heart rate at rest is about 36 beats per minute. Normal for athletes is 50s, 60s. So it's not uncommon for especially marathon runners to have a low heart rate, but mine's especially low, and it can cause me to pass out. It causes me to feel kind of weak, and I'm just sensitive to the elements. So a lot of people struggle with heat and humidity. In fact, pretty much everybody, at least to some degree. I'm just a bit more sensitive to it. And then on top of that, I had experienced a major life change, like 6 weeks before the marathon, and it's kind of hard to, it's just, that's not that much time to recover. So I got out of a 5-year relationship, I moved across the country, and then I started an academic program that it was just completely new to me, new material, So there was a lot of change and adjustment at once. I had a new roommate, new apartment, new living area, meeting a bunch of new people, trying to get accustomed to having like 7 classes in 10 weeks and like a lot. All of it, loved it. I don't mean to complain, but in reality, it was a big change. And that's something you have to factor into your taper. Change is exhausting, plus just general schedule. Like it's not all about how you physically prepare. It's also about how you mentally and emotionally prepare. And I think I was just kind of tired. I was sort of running on fumes, still running on fumes, but getting more used to it. And I was in the middle of midterm. So right before the marathon, I had 2 like midterm presentation projects. And then within 48 hours of the marathon being in Ohio, I then had to fly back to Colorado and take 3 midterms. So I was tired. So that's one point of this video. When you taper and prepare for a marathon, you have to think about much more than just your physical exertion. You have to think about how rested you are in terms of sleep and just like general emotional rest. How many other factors such as work, family life, academics are going on, and you have to kind of ease yourself into the marathon in more than just tapering down your miles. You also have to taper down everything else, and there's really nothing I could have done about that, so I'm not angry about it. It's just, you know, it is what it is. If you can control scheduling a marathon around a time that's not that stressful for you, do it. Anyway, on top of that, I was also extremely tight because for the past month I had been sitting pretty much all day either studying or in class, and I wasn't really used to that. I was used to the summer where I was running around, moving, doing a bunch of stuff, and I won't have that summer again for a very long time. I was just, overall, I didn't feel great. I only had 3 hours of sleep for 3 of the 5 nights before the marathon. One of them was the night before, and then also the time difference. I woke up at 3 a.m. Colorado time to prepare for a 7 a.m. Ohio time race. So I was a little, just things were really off. I wasn't in the best position, and then the weather was certainly not in a great position. And so the overall point is like, I did the best I could, and some things are just out of my control. Ironically, the night before the marathon, I was reading an article, which maybe this was bad luck, but the article was about how more often than not, the marathon beats you. And in my head, I was thinking, all right, maybe for people who don't prepare, but like I prepared hardcore as extensively as I could for this race. Like I had at least over the past 2 years, 5 trial marathons below Boston pace. Or not Boston pace, below Boston time. Like I ran them in below 3 hours and 35 minutes. And those were just the trial. Like that didn't have anything to do with adrenaline or, you know. Anyway, so it's not a question of whether or not I could qualify. It's just, did I on race day? So I had so much confidence that I could do it. And it was just a really good lesson that you have to respect the marathon. So what happened was it was 80 degrees and 86% humidity at the start of the race. I felt it immediately. At about mile 4, I started feeling really cold, which is basically a sign of heat exhaustion. That was at mile 4. Like, oh, it's just crazy, the weather in Ohio. But by the time I got to mile 14, I started to black out, and that's of course very dangerous. And I know from the experiences I've had with my heart that if you start to black out, girlfriend, you're about to hit the ground. And for anybody else, if you start blacking out during a race, you might be about to hit the ground. So like, stop. Either get on the ground, elevate, get blood and oxygen back to your brain. So what I did is I refueled, I got water, I got Cliff Bars, I walked, and I called my mom, and I'm not even gonna lie, I cried for like 10 minutes, and I was just like, Mom, I'm not gonna make it, I'm not gonna do it, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it. My mom doesn't care. Like, I mean, she wants me to do my best, but she in no way would be disappointed. I think I was so afraid of my own disappointment in myself that I was kind of projecting it onto her. And anyway, I was like, Mom, I'm not gonna make it. Will you come to Colorado? Will you watch me race in Colorado? Because I can't fly back to Ohio again. Like, will you know, like I was freaking out. I was trying to already prepare for the next race, literally in the middle of the current one. And of course she was she tried to be as helpful as she could, but really I just needed to go through my process. Well, oh, also the fact that I even stopped is a really big, it's good for me. Like, I am definitely the kind of person who is like, you do not stop no matter how injured, in pain, upset, difficult, hard this is. You do not stop. I am very extreme in my thinking, and I am realizing that that is not always the most adaptive or intelligent thing. So I am proud of myself for stopping and not pushing myself to the point that I did pass out, because that would have been worse. But it's still frustrating when the marathon gets you, when you know you are as prepared as you possibly can be. Turning things around, I ended up changing my perspective. I had about a 10-minute smile, whatever, of a kind of pity party. Not just pity party. I mean, I was upset, rightfully so, I think. But then I turned it around. Then I kind of started running again, although it was slow. It was like an 8:30 pace. But I really tried to focus more on what was going on around me. And that was, or the spectators, the volunteers, the bands. Like, oh, they had I don't know, 200 bands or something crazy like that along the marathon. So I actually I didn't have my headphones in for the rest of the race. I just listened. I was high-fiving people. They have all sorts of fun signs, like little power-up signs that you tap for power. And so I was doing that. I was seeing the patient champions, and that was the biggest thing. So this was the Nationwide Children's Hospital Marathon. So the money that we pay for, well, I'm not exactly positive on how it all works, but the money we pay for registration, some of it does go to the Children's Hospital. Some people donate a lot of money who run, some people who are just spectators or whatever. It's a great way to help fund the hospital so that these children have a chance to get the medication and the treatment that they need. And so seeing them on the sidelines, they have a patient champion at every single mile, seeing them smile and happy, it's just kind of that reality check of, you are so lucky that you can run this marathon, regardless of how fast you're running. You are lucky that you can run at all. I am lucky that I have a body that allows me to do what I love to do. Whether that's a run, I'm going through an extremely intense academic program for the career of my dreams. I can hike, I can swim, going about my daily life is not really hard, at least not physically. Seeing the patient champions was just like it just helped change my perspective of like, I can run this race and I can enjoy it. If they can enjoy their lives while they're going through so many hard things, like, they're having, at like 3, 4, 5 years old, they're talking about medication and possibly dying. Like, how can you wrap your head around that? Like, I am so lucky that I can run this marathon. And these children are cheering for me. Like, in some ways, this is hard for me to say, but in some ways I'm kind of glad that the marathon beat me, because it opened my eyes to something else. Not that I was totally unaware before, but it just really helped me realize I might be disappointed about Boston, but the truth is there's another time for Boston. Some of these children don't have that much time. And not just these children, I mean, and they're just a representation of a lot of people who aren't as fortunate as I am to have the body that I do, to be able to do what I do. And it's amazing that some of those children were there still cheering for me. And then I'm on the phone and I'm crying and I'm upset that I didn't win, or I didn't qualify for Boston. It doesn't mean that I didn't have a right to be upset. It does. It's puts things in perspective when you look at these children and you realize things could be worse. Yeah, you can be disappointed. You can be stressed out. You can be frustrated as heck. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I have a lot to be thankful for. Not very pretty, but I ran the rest of the race. I finished. I went to the medical tent immediately after. I just got everything checked out, made sure I was okay. I wasn't that concerned because it's been 12 years since I've known that I've been bradycardic and I've been dealing with it. So I just wanted to be safe. Point is that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, something can happen in the marathon that you are just not expecting, and it can beat you. The marathon, you really do have to respect it. Like, it is It's more than just running 26 miles. That's a long time to be running. A lot can happen. And I was very confident going in. And so this was a bit of a good reminder of like, it's not so much about how physically fit and athletically gifted or how much you prepared. It's not always about your body and what you've done. Completing a marathon in general is a huge accomplishment, regardless of what you think the performance was. Like, it's hard and a lot happens. So many people that day were struggling, like big time struggling. And then of course you hear horror stories about running marathons, which is so rare. But the point is, there's only so much you can do to control the race. You have to respect it. So I respect it more now. I mean, I respected it before, but not as much as I do now. And so I don't want any of this video to be like a downer or to be, I mean, of course it sounds like that at some points, but the point is, if you have a race or a marathon, whether that's literal or figuratively, whatever it is, like, do the best you can and ultimately be proud of that. Doing the best you can and then enjoying the ride, what more can you ask for? So anyway, that's my very long video. I don't even think I got to all the points that I wanted to, but that's enough for today. If you're about to run a race, good luck. I hope it goes a little bit better for you, but even if it doesn't, or even if it does, don't forget to enjoy it. You know, I think a lot of people get really wrapped up in their goals, and that's fine, but don't lose sight of the overall picture. Don't get caught up in, like, don't make it an all or nothing thing. Enjoy the ride. It's a hard thing for me to say, but it's true. So anyway, I'll see you guys for another video. It'll be shorter, I promise. Please subscribe. I'll have a lot more running videos in the future, a lot more training videos, and yeah, so I'll see you guys soon. Bye.